What is going on, guys? DragonTamerBlayde here, back with some more Elder Scrolls Legends, and here we are, 5 days away from the launch of Moons of Elsweyr, and the card review, or card reveals, are actually picking up quite a bit. I think we're like almost 10 cards behind, when like just a day ago I was up to date with the reveals. So we have some catching up to do. As you can see, queued above, I've got 5 cards to talk about today. Then we'll save 4 for probably tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be caught back up again, but I have no idea how many cards are getting revealed tomorrow. So we're gonna bang this out. If you're new, go check out the other card reviews as well to see what cards have been revealed so far. We're going to rate them from 1 to 5, give you my thoughts on how I use them, or just how I think about the cards in general. Y'all know what the dealio is. This is like the 4th one of this in general for just Moons of Elsweyr, and we've done this for the other expansions. So first up, we've got Pouncing Cinch, or Senche, I really don't know how to pronounce that. It is a Khajiit. It is a 7-cost 4/7. With guard always, so guard is always there, and wax, so if you play this on an odd numbered turn, it gets +3, so it'd be a 7-cost 7/7 guard, or wane on an even numbered turn, you'd play this as a 7-cost 4/7 with guard and charge. So in wax, when it's a 7-cost 7/7 guard, it's alright, I guess. Alright-ish. Yeah, 7-cost 7/7 guard. What do we have to compare it to? Nahagleave without the extra text. So just a big guard that's vulnerable to removal. I think this card really shines on the wane side of things. 7-cost 4/7 with guard and charge is nothing to shake a stick at. Some comparable things. You've got Swiftwing Dragon in red, which is an 8-cost 5/5 with just charge. So it's pushing 1 extra damage, but it costs 1 more, and that has Dragon Synergy. While this has Khajiit Synergy, which isn't nothing. Khajiit Synergy is a thing in this expansion. But this also gets 2 extra health to trade off the 1 less attack, and has guard on top of it when it has charge. I've seen people liken this to like a Candlehearth Brawler on steroids. Candlehearth Brawler is a 4-cost 2/5 with charge and guard. This could be a 7-cost 4/7 with charge and guard. I like this card a decent amount. I think it's a really, really good arena card. We're not giving arena ratings, but I just wanted to give a shout out that I think this is a really solid arena card. As far as constructed goes, if you were playing like Swiftwing Dragon as your top end in some sort of pseudo-aggressive deck, or like this is a pretty decent mid-range type of card. If regular mid-range decks make more of a comeback, because the 4 damage can act as a finisher or a way to close out games. 4 damage and charge and guard can act as removal while also leaving something defensive up on the board. This card is really flexible. The only downside this card has is instead of just saying guard and charge, it has wax and wane, and the wax ability, while buffing up the attack, is, I would say, mostly a hindrance in this case. And another thing to keep in mind is the fact that the charge is under wane instead of wax. If you wanted to play this card on curve, it would be the 7/7 version. So you either need to play this card on 6 with the ring, or on 8, assuming you haven't ramped, in order for this card to be in what is, in my opinion, the best version of it, the charge guard version. So you have to play it kind of off curve in order for it to be in its best version. So actually, this is the rare or first situation, I think, where wax and wane is a way of making the card worse in one way. So it's kind of interesting. I'd give this card probably like 2.5 stars for constructed. It's not bad at all. And if you can find a way to make sure you're using the wane ability, I think it could be somewhat decent. But I think you'll see a lot of this card in Arena, especially since it's a rare. Next up, we've got Moolam-nir. Can't really pronounce that. So it's a 9-cost dragon, unique legendary. 9-cost 9/8. Summon and slay. Battle an enemy creature with less power than Moolam-nir's health. So this is a really interesting card. It's kind of like a 9-cost remove 2 cards kind of thing. Or remove 2 creatures. In most situations. And it kind of requires you to think a lot to use this card most effectively, since the ability reads battle an enemy creature with less power than Moolam-nir's health. So you want to kind of order your attacks in a way in which you can properly kill all of your targets. For example, if your opponent has a 7 attack creature and a 2 attack creature on the board, or I guess a 5 attack creature and a 2 attack creature, you'd have to make sure that you attack the 2 attack creature first and then the 5 attack, because that would bring him down to 7 health. Or I guess it doesn't matter either way. So it doesn't matter as much because it's power versus health. I thought it was health versus health. Sorry about that. I was just trying to do the math in my head. I don't know. I think with Dragon Synergy, this card can be a 9-cost draw card or heal for 4 and remove 2 creatures from your opponent. What I'm mostly interested in when it comes to this card is memes. I'm thinking something like Battle of Shaman Keep plus play Berserker of the Pale plus this card on 12, and then you can just repeatedly battle each of the tokens that you summoned for your opponent. And the only downside to that is you're not playing all of those cards on curve, so they'd have a chance to kill off their tokens. But maybe something with like Night Mother or some other way, or even just in general with Berserker of the Pale, making this a 10-9 with Breakthrough. If you attack even 2 creatures of your opponent, this is like a 9-cost charge twice, and you're probably dealing at least between 5 to 10 damage if you have a 10 damage Breakthrough creature battling twice. This card's going to take quite a bit of setup to really be super powerful. In a lot of situations, it might just be a feel-bad dragon, and you can't even pull it with Calgrontied, because this is a unique, and the Halls of the Colossus only pull non-unique dragons, so that's kind of a knock on this card as well. I'm kind of fluctuating between 2 and 2.5 stars for this card. I think there's a lot of ways to use it somewhat effectively. I just don't necessarily know if all of that's set up. I feel like in a lot of situations you're going to have better plays at that point in the game. That's not to say this card has no potential. I just think it's the kind of thing where I really need to work things out and think about all the different ways that I'd be considering using this card. And I think I could come up with something. I just don't know how good it would be or if there'd be better options available. Next up, we've got Razum-dar, a 7-cost 4/3 with charge, and draw a copy of the first card your opponent draws each turn. And that each turn is very important. Sparky has confirmed that in a situation where you play Razum-dar and you go face and your opponent draws a card from their rune, you will draw that creature right away. So even at a minimum, if this is like go face for 4, draw a copy of whatever your opponent draws from a prophecy, if it's, or just a rune in general if it's a creature, so you get +1 cards and knowledge of what creature they drew. And then at the start of their next turn, if they draw another creature, you get one of those and knowledge as well. So not only does this card push 4 damage, it also gets you cards and knowledge. So this is a very, very strong card. Don't let the low stat line fool you. There is a lot of power in this card. It's a way to gain card advantage that typically isn't very easy to do. It's kind of similar to Orb of Varamina in that front. More conditional, but it's also pushing damage right away. It demands an answer immediately. If your opponent doesn't hit a prophecy, they need to get rid of this card right away. That's how powerful it is. Unless they're playing a bunch of trash creatures. But even then, like, you're still getting knowledge of what they have and what you have to play around. And I think the knowledge is arguably more valuable than the card advantage. And the card advantage is also incredibly valuable. I think this card is nuts. This isn't even considering other synergies that there may have. And it doesn't have to be a copy of a creature that your opponent drew from Razum-dar attacking or breaking a rune. So for example, you could play Razum-dar, not go face, play something like Mudcrab Merchant, and whatever creature you give them, you know you'll get. Obviously, you're not going to want to always leave it up to RNG in that situation, but if there's ways that you can make sure your opponent draws a specific creature, you can know what you're getting. It's just very strong. It's just a very strong card. I'm floating in like the 3.5 to 4-star range for this card. A lot of what I've seen so far from this expansion has me somewhat hopeful that a kind of value type of game that isn't just stall with removal until conscription has some legs to it in this expansion. And Razum-dar could go a long way in that front of if you're playing like a mid-rangey type of deck, gaining you the extra value or cards that you need to finish off either your mid-range mirror or control opponent. So I'd give this card like a 3.5 to 4-star rating. Really excited to play with this card too. This is arguably the most interesting card revealed so far. Definitely up there for me. Next up, Smash and Grab. We've got 2-cost action, give friendly creatures with Pilfer +2/+0 and breakthrough this turn. So, depending on how you build your deck, this is a way better Warcry. Assuming you're playing Smash and Grab in a deck that is either very heavily or entirely Pilfer, this is Warcry without the lane condition for half the cost, and it gets breakthrough. Bonkers alone. Even if you're not considering the pilfering, the amount of extra damage you can push with Smash and Grab is bonkers. If you have a full 2 lanes, you are pushing an extra 16 damage from Smash and Grab. Obviously, full 2 lanes isn't super common, but again, crazy. Combos incredibly well with Thieves' Den because it turns all of your creatures into pilfer creatures, so everything would get +2/+0 in breakthrough. Also in a regular breakthrough deck, +2/+0 in breakthrough means you are triggering your pilfer abilities even if your opponent has guards in your way, because presumably the +2 means you're going to have more attack than your opponent's creature has health. You're going to hit the breakthrough, which means they didn't even slow down your pilfer with their guards. This is an incredible pilfer push card. Yeah, I think this card arguably costs too little. This card should probably cost 3, maybe even 4, considering it hits all creatures on the board, and we're already getting a lot of pilfer synergy. Pilfer cards already weren't bad, and one of the only things slowing them down was that they were slow and guards completely kind of negate the deck. This card is pushing pilfer hard. This is... I think this is going to be one of those cards that we get very sick of seeing very quickly. Yeah, this could be a very scary card. Even if you're just playing, like... Even if I'm not a pilfer-heavy deck, if I'm playing... I don't know, Daring Cut Purse and one other card, and I get a couple of them on the board. Let's even just 2 Daring Cut Purse, and I get to play Smash and Grab. Putting 4 extra power on the board for 2 Magicka is incredible, guys. It is incredible. Like, this is a really good card. Oh, God. Like, the only thing that could stop this card is if all of the pilfer cards wind up trash. But we already have a lot of good pilfer cards, so this card is terrifying. I'd put this card in like a 4 to 4.5 star range. That's how strong this card is. I think this is going to be... This is me predicting here. I think this is going to be one of the earliest cards that people want to see nerfed. That's how strong I think this card is. It looks unassuming at first when you look at it, but once you think more about it... I haven't even read this Reddit thread, but I'm assuming a lot of people are like, holy shit, this card is incredibly strong. Again, there's a chance that pilfer in general falls on its face enough that Smash and Grab doesn't catch on. But I think this card is so strong that people will find a way. And like I said, even if it's not a full pilfer deck, if you're running it alongside Thieves' Den, or even just a handful of good pilfer cards, like Bandari Opportunist is a card that sees a bunch of play right now. And throwing something like Daring Cut Purse. Turn 3 or 4 if you draw a couple of them. Between 4 and 6 extra damage if you're like an aggro pilfer deck. Bruh. This card's strong as hell. This card's strong as hell, bruh. Next up, and finally for today, we're trying to keep these things a little bit shorter. Euraxia Tharn, hopefully I'm saying that right, or Eurasia, or Euraxia. 9-cost 6/6 Spell Sword Legendary. Summon ability, steal an enemy creature or support. Last gasp, your opponent steals it back. So it's a 2 cheaper Maroc that also can steal supports. The only downfall of this card is that your opponent can steal it back. However, this is a last gasp ability. What does that mean? It means that any card that circumvents destroying this card circumvents the last gasp. and you won't have to give the card back. What does that mean? If I play Euraxia Tharn and any combination of Barrelzar's Tinkering, Close Call, there's that, the neutral card, the Reachman, that puts her back in your hand. Winterhold Illusionist would make her disappear and come back and activate it again. Like, there's a fair amount of ways to get around the last gasp. Additionally, you can silence Euraxia, and Spellsword has a fair amount of ways to silence. Oh my god, Discord always starts going off when I'm recording a video. Doesn't happen any other time, only when I'm recording a video. Sorry, quitting that for now. There's a lot of ways to get around this last gasp. There's a whole lot of silence, and this is a very powerful ability. Very powerful ability, guys. Stealing supports, while not always going to be super strong, it can be a way of, in a way, removing a support. If you're playing Spellsword, you're more than likely playing Edict, so you don't have to worry about support removal in general. But if your opponent's playing something like an odd Rothgar Forge, or I don't know, anything of those high value supports, you could just yoink that shit and silence or bounce Euraxia back to your hand. And even just a Marok that comes down 2 turns earlier is very strong. And even if you don't get to bounce her back to your hand, or silence her, or blink her, or whatever, the fact that you have to give it back isn't always going to be the worst thing in the world. Because often, depending on what you're stealing, if you're stealing something high value enough, the damage has been done already. Like, if I have a full lane of creatures ready to attack your face, and you have, like, I don't know, a 50-50 Nahagleave blocking my path, I can steal that 50-50 Nahagleave with Euraxia, and get all of my damage in on your face that I had stacked up in that lane, and even if in the next turn or two you remove my Euraxia to get your 50-50 Nahagleave back, I pushed all that extra damage, and maybe at that point I already finished the game, and yeah, this is a good card. This is a good card. It's a sneaky good card. Giving it back can feel bad, but I don't think you play this card unless your deck has at least a couple ways of circumventing that last gasp. Otherwise, you just have to make sure you play Euraxia at a smart moment when either you're going to win the game or come close to winning the game by stealing a creature as support, or you need to be ready and with a plan in place for when you have to eventually give back that card. I think there's a lot of ways to do that, especially if you're playing like a Tribunal or slower Spellsword deck. There's a whole lot of ways that you can abuse this card. That being said, this card is still slightly slow, whereas even Marak has fallen out of favor a tiny bit. Not a ton, but a tiny bit. And I think this is going to be the kind of card where the higher your skill level or deck, the better this card can be. And what I mean by that is you may have to run some cards that aren't as good in your deck to make this card as good as possible. Something like a Tinkering, maybe something like a Suppress or other Silence in general, which you may not want to run otherwise, so it may make your deck worse on average while this card is still really good. Or there may just be a whole lot of players that play this card at the wrong time and think that it sucks because they played it at the wrong time and got punished for it. I still think this is like a 3.5 to 4 star card. There's a chance that this doesn't see much play because there's too many ways to remove it quickly, but I think there's enough ways to work around it, and stealing is just strong enough in general that this card should see some play. I don't think it'll be ubiquitous by any means, but I still think this is a very, very strong card. But yeah, that is going to be it for now, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of this batch of cards and what your ratings would be down below in the comments section. We are 5 days away, friends. I cannot wait for Moons of Elsweyr. I'm getting hyped. We'll be back tomorrow with another card review, or session of card review. As always, thank you all very much for watching. See you guys next time. Peace.